Incremental greetings. This will be the last video about the shortcuts of SuperMemo. In this case, are the advanced shortcuts for incremental reading. If you haven't seen it yet, watch the basics of incremental reading before this one. So that's my curated list of shortcuts that I will cover in this video. First, operations that runs on the entire collection for elements, particularly in items, then components within those elements, image components, text, and so on, and then some miscellaneous that is very related. So let's start with the shortcuts that perhaps are not at high yield. You're not going to use them every single day or session or every 10 minutes. But once you need it, comes in handy to use them. Sometimes what you may want is to see what's behind SuperMemo. So you don't want to show, you want to show the desktop. You can actually do that. And now we can see, for instance, the shortcuts that I'm going to tell you now. So if I press it again, Ctrl-Shift F10. No, I want to focus on SuperMemo. I don't want any distraction. So you can toggle this on and off every single time. Next is the repair collection. Not necessarily every session, but quite often. At the very least, I suggest once a week. I suggest to run the collection repair. You can use Ctrl F12, and if you want to use the detailed, you can do so by clicking, obviously, or by Alt and D. You may see that you check everything but the lexicon and the backup, which you don't want to. Then favorites, Ctrl O. This will open your favorites. This is especially useful if you have more than one SuperMemo collection, so you can switch back and forth multiple collections super quickly. Ctrl O opens this menu. You can add your own, and then you need the letter that is here for every collection. Usually it will be the first letter of the collection, unless it's reused. In this case, slides has the S. Then you have shared is also the S, so in this case you have the A, and survey the same thing. Starts with a S, so you get the U, that is the second letter. So if I press U, I will select the survey. And you can also do up and down if you prefer. Then, if you want to go neural, use the neural review for creativity. Ctrl F2. This is collection-wise. How do I know I entered this mode? In the stats window, now it says Neuro. I have 152 elements here. Which, by the way, I can open this collection. I can open those elements. Alt. Now, I select, in this case, I want view, so it will be a V, and N for neural review. And now I have the 152 elements. Nice. I press escape. I don't want to use the mouse here. Hey, I'm in a different place now. In a different place. I want to go back. Alt left. You can also go neural from other places, like, for instance, images. And in this case, for some reason, instead of Ctrl F2, it's Alt N. So it's even a different modifier. Then let's say that you want to do another useful command. It's Ctrl R. It's find and replace. This is useful, for instance, if I want to delete the close deletions. I don't want that here because this will affect the entire collection, and I have genuine close deletions. But I know that in my flat folder, that is not true. So if there are close deletions, we're for the sake of creating the element. So now, in the browser window, I can trigger the same thing, Ctrl R, and I want to get rid of all of the close deletions. Nice. That I'm not going to use this key binding every day, but it comes in handy when I need it. Then let's move on to the shortcuts that are element-wise. Okay, this appeared in my repetitions. Look at the priority. I could do Alt P, modify it here, or Ctrl-Shift-P, modify it here with Alt-P as well here. But if I only want a slight increase or decrease, I can use Ctrl-Shift up or down. Look at the priority, 45.6%. If I press Ctrl-Shift up, it goes 0.1% up. The number goes down, the number goes the other way around. Remember, Ctrl-Shift down, the number goes up, because the lower the number, the higher the priority. This is also true if I hold the key down, it keeps decreasing. So if I want to decrease it, let's say 1%, I don't need to press Ctrl-Shift down 10 times in a row. I can just leave it for a second, and here you go. This is useful if you want to just slightly change the priority, and it will be super useful when it's very high. Because in this case, yeah, it's not the same 1% than 1.5 or 2%. It's a major difference. So especially when you work with this range, Ctrl-Shift up and down works best. Another one. This is how it looks. Now, I have the article template. If I press Ctrl-Shift-U, this is how actually the element is, how it looks, without any template being applied. Ctrl-Shift-U again, it's a toggle. This is how it looks now with my article template. In this case, yeah, the background color changed and the width of the element, the width of the component slightly. Ctrl-Shift-U. This could be useful if something is messed up or you're working with templates. You can see it without messing around with imposing templates and stuff like that. Remember, to apply the template, it's Ctrl-Shift-M. And now, you know what? I want the article picture, which happens to be almost the same as before. Let me check the source. Ctrl-Shift-U. Okay, it's the same background color, but the size is still different. Now, I will force its example, and my template, this template, let's say I apply the article picture. I only have one image. So what I'm going to do is to add more than one image. So this is what SuperMemo does by default, because now my template is including 3 image components. So what I could do is to tile the components. Shift Alt T. Now I can decide which one. Yeah, don't touch the text, only the image components. I can select with the mouse, or I can actually use also the keyboard. I press a space, the space checks the box. Down, check, and now enter. 2 by 2, it's how I have it now. You know what? I want 3 rows, tap to navigate to the columns, and 1 column. Yeah, I want that. And enter again. This can be useful sometimes, depends on your preference. Shift Alt T. Now, if I press Ctrl-Shift-U, hey, how is it not working now? Well, because now I modified the element and it's not template. So this is the source already. Now, in this case, I'm going to use an item, but it's the same for topics. Since, you know what, in this use case is I have a question and answer that is just true or false. Socialization is largely a non-issue in homeschooling, because this is how it came across in what I was reading. And the answer is true. But I want to have the pair. I want to have both the true and the false card. So what I'm going to do is to duplicate this element. And I can do it by Alt-D. Now it may look like I have done nothing, that I have only selected this with the white background. But if you noticed, it says duplicate. Even if in the knowledge tree the highlight color is to the parent I'm not in that element. I'm in the child already. I have this selected. So if I press Q, is the answer. So I will need to actually press escape now, Q. And then in this case, I will do the other way around, so it is false. Socialization is largely an issue in homeschooling. Then I will copy this. This is just my convention, and now this is false. When you duplicate elements, in this case, it's an item, you don't copy the history, which by the way, Ctrl-Shift-H for the history. And if I go to the parent, this already had some repetitions. So you're only duplicating the content, the cosmetics, how it looks, but not the metadata. Let's say this example, a structural and molecular mechanism of a specific effect. So wow, this is way too advanced, but for me, you know what? I only want to have this in my collection. Not for learning. I don't want this to appear during my repetitions, but I want to keep it in case I get hits from search, and I want to consult this anytime. But I don't want to learn it. In this case, I can keep it in my collection with dismiss, and it's Ctrl D. Remember that Alt D was for duplicating, and with the Ctrl modifier, actually dismisses this. You know what? It's been some months. Now it's time. Now I want. I changed my mind. I want to see this. In SuperMemo, you can actually undismiss, but I don't suggest to do it. First, there's no key binding for it. And it goes to the pending queue. It's something that is actually what you don't want. Use memorize, Ctrl M. And it will ask you for an interval, and a starting interval. Let's go with 4, but you can change it. Now it's memorized again. You can see it because now it's green again. This will show up in 4 days. But remember, the priority hasn't recovered. It was 30. And now it was 100 when I dismiss it. I can use Alt P, and now 33. So more or less I have the same priority I had before. Now this appeared on my repetition. The superiority of clause over questions from Piotr Wozniak. Super high priority. Let's say that I want this to wait. I want to postpone this, manually postpone this. Ctrl J. And I said in a month. And now the interval is a month. Perhaps what I want to do is just do it later. So I don't want to do the repetition. It's put it later. So imagine you're in a shop. You're waiting on the line in a queue. So you just change the order of who is waiting. Like if you want to jump the line, or the opposite, you want to go behind other people in the queue, Ctrl-Shift-J. In this case, well, because now in this backup it's huge, 28,000, this may be smaller for you. Let's pretend it was the 100. So now it's Ctrl-Shift-J. Oh, you know what? Let's do the 400. I want this to be still in my outstanding queue, but later. Remember, Ctrl-J, I decide the interval. Ctrl-Shift-J is, I don't postpone it per se. I just put it in a different place in the queue. I could see this today if I keep going. I do enough repetitions. Not only that, I have Ctrl-Shift-R, which also asks me for an interval. I have a video on that about the difference in a huge degree of detail, if you want to watch it. So this covers everything for topics, for elements. Another key binding that is useful is to replay. If you use script components that auto-triggers something, and you want to trigger it again, I don't have it here, so I will have the other use case that is the audio component.
Comorbidity.
Comorbidity is, how was this? Let me replay. You could click here.
Comorbidity.
Stop and play again.
Comorbidity.
Or you could go Ctrl F10.
Comorbidity.
How do you know that? If you right click, here you have the autoplay. So you just trigger this again. A nice touch if you use audio. Then for components, I will keep using this collection. That's an image component. If I press Ctrl+Shift+K, I can select any other image. I can reuse it. Now it's dummy. It's for the sake of the example. If I go to the sound, Alt-T to cycle.
Comorbidity. Comorbidity.
Is you know what I want
Comorbidity.
I want the one from Merriam, for whatever reason.
Comorbidity.
Nice.
Comorbidity.
Ctrl+Shift+K. It's to link. Then, perhaps, especially you use Ctrl+F8 to insert the image. You want to rename it. Alt-R. And now it's more. And now to accept, instead of OK, this will, an enter will make a new line break. You need to add the Alt. Alt-Enter. Nice. You rename with Alt-R, and you link with Ctrl+Shift+K. And let's say that it's brand new. You want something from your computer in downloads, let's say Ctrl+Q. This will open, and now you navigate to the image you want to import. Because it's an image. If it's a sound, Ctrl+T
Comorbidity.
to navigate. Now I have the second component, some component here.
Comorbid.
Comorbid, okay.
Comorbid.
So now I have a second component that is being used. One last thing. You can access to any menu. If you really want to summarize all of the videos about shortcuts, if you really want a mouseless experience in SuperMemo, it's possible. The only thing you need is to access to the menus. How do you know that? Those menus. You can get to the contents. How? Alt-C. The browser, once you are in the contents, Ctrl-Enter. Registry, by Ctrl+Shift+K, for instance, the one I showed before, or you can navigate to the menus. How do you navigate to the menus? The main menu, by Alt. Now it's search, S for search, and now what do I want? What registry I want? The images, the sounds. So I want, I don't know, other, O. And now the F for fonts. I have the font registry. Then for the other two, you may have seen it already, Alt F10 and Alt F12. And remember that in some windows, it's not exactly this one. Instead of Alt, it will be Shift. In the browser window, it will be like this. So if I press Alt F10, this is the same. It's shown like if it's the top, but it's the same thing that if I click here. It's the same menu. It's the element menu. Now, if I select a component,
Comorbid.
Ctrl-T, by the way, now it's the sound. If I press Alt F10, yeah, it's the same experience. It's the element menu. But if I press F12 instead, Alt F12, now I get the element of the component. If I cycle Ctrl-T, now I go to the image, Alt 12. Now it's the image. And the same, if now I go to now if I go back to my collection, that is a topic. Is the same thing, Alt F12. In this case, this menu is for the HTML component. And now I can do R, or I can just navigate up and down. Now right, what did I want to do? Oh yeah, no, go to text, style, and edit the style and everything. So with this, you can do everything you want in SuperMemo by just using the keyboard. The only thing that requires the mouse would be moving, let's say, image occlusions, stuff like this, but it's very likely you're going to use that. And once you have this, you have mastered SuperMemo with all of the key bindings. More than 400, by the way. You can take it to the next level and make your own. without a hotkey. So you make it more ergonomic, more pleasant experience, and you reduce the friction. That's the key at the end of the day. That's been all for today and for the shortcuts. Let me know if this has been useful, and see you incrementally.